Sound check. Rejected the label saying कि लड़की की photo available.
It's Queen Victoria.
I'm glad because I don't like talking too much.
Companies like Razorfish, Razorfish, and also
Listen, you can whatever you want. I'm sleeping. And today he brings all of that experience, which is why I've been laughing. I almost got it.
Y'all are going to say our intros or we say?
Today's guest is someone who has honed her craft in marketing. She is the CMO of Project Peacock and she has a vivid experience in marketing at Social Connect, where she had FMCG, fashion, alcohol, and real estate experience. She then went on to head marketing at Presscon, a leading real estate firm, and she today leads the PR, compelling stories, marketing, and all things brand at Project Peacock and Nisaki.
our second guest is Sanchit Agarwal, who comes from a lineage of 5 entrepreneurs. He studied IT from the University of Washington, Seattle. He's worked in M&A and he's also had leadership roles in project management as well as mobile app development. He's currently the CEO of Project Peacock.
Nisaki is a Goa-based gin craft brand with color-changing gin made up of these 16 botanicals. It has premium craftsmanship, very smart market positioning, and they aim to sell this sensory experience. We're very excited to have the founders here. Welcome to episode 7 of What's Next.
So thank you first of all for giving us this opportunity to share our journey. Right, this is our first business together, and it's very deeply personal. So when you asked that what feelings come to mind, I would say it's everything from frustration to like ecstasy, like fulfillment, knowing that every day what we are doing is for this brand, and the brand is bigger than us, basically.
What about you?
Yeah,
Nidhi?
so I feel like I kind of echo what Sanchit said. And also that whatever we are doing is for Nisaki. It's our first baby.
Wow, let's get right into it.
So I want to know first of all that, Sanchit, you come from an M&A background and then you moved into app development for a
Yeah.
bit and project management.
Yeah.
And you, as we just spoke, were into real estate marketing.
Right.
So what brings you both together and towards building an alcohol brand? What was that journey like?
So I'll start. I'll give you a little perspective from my end. So I personally believe that alcohol is a very integral part of the culture of a place, right? And that wasn't fully accepted in India till very recently. We still considered alcohol a taboo, although alcohol has been part of like our culture for eons. So and personally, through my personal journey, where I've traveled across many different countries, lived in a different country which had a little more mature alcohol market, understanding that and bringing that experience to provide a spirit for India was what was motivating for us. It helps that I come from, like you mentioned, M&A and tech app development, because together, like, we have varied skill sets. Together we bring a very unique perspective. Just to give you an example, we are very research data driven people, and there is advantages to that, moving away from the traditional way of building alcohol brands, because alcohol is not D2C in India, it is like distribution run. So if you can bring that little element of data and research, you can give yourself that additional edge. So yeah, I feel like it definitely helps not coming from the background and entering alcohol from a different perspective. At the same time, we like alcohol. It's been a big part of our celebrations, our lives. So why not?
Also, I think we need to earn from what we've consumed for so long.
Need some ROI on alcohol.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
No, so once you decided that, okay, alcohol is the category that we want to enter, what was like the thought process between deciding which specific type of alcohol, the market segment, pricing? How did you go about finalization of that?
So, I have been a gin drinker all my life, and of course, it was not just because we've been drinking gin all our lives. We also decided it based on data that a lot of people are now moving to drinking gin in rather than a vodka, and we wanted to, of course, make a spirit that is not clear so that it's easier to discover for people. And that's what made us do gin and Nisaki.
That's very interesting that it's a color that makes it different. Makes a difference because yes, a lot of alcohols are clear
Correct.
Right.
liquids.
Correct.
Yeah. Now that you've experienced the F&B space as a consumer, not more so as someone who's been in this space. So, like, what was the first few months like when you started? I'm sure, yeah. As I can see, like you had an idea, and to take an idea to execution is a very big task. So, how was that journey like for you?
So, you're absolutely right. Like the first few months were challenging, exciting, and a lot of hard work because alcohol, I don't know if you know this, but it's a very, very close knit industry in India. Overall, F&B as well, but alcohol even more so. Everybody knows everyone. And when you don't come from some sort of like lineage or background or a connection, it becomes that much more challenging because it takes a while for people to take you seriously. Just for people to understand, okay, these young kids are coming with a unique perspective to an industry that's not changed its ways for many, many years in India, that's dominated by the legacy players. So it was challenging from that aspect. Second, what was very challenging is there is a science to making alcohol and making good alcohol, right? And as product developers, as business owners, we wanted to learn about everything that goes into making alcohol because if we are putting our names on a product, if we are selling something or encouraging people that you consume this, especially something like an F&B product which you're putting inside your body, right? There's a lot of apprehensions around it. So we wanted to learn everything around it. We spent a lot of time with distillers, with manufacturers, a lot of time researching, reading. We spent a lot of time tasting ourselves just to understand, if we like something, why do we like it, what goes into making alcohol. We also spent a lot of time doing surveys, like consumer surveys, even before we zeroed in on the concept, right? Of one is a gin, second is, like an experiential gin, like a unique color changing gin. So we did like about 150 surveys, understanding that what are people's drinking habits and patterns. And we did that across demographics. We did that even ratio between male female. We did it across younger population to like 50 somethings as well. Of course, it was still like something that we had to extrapolate and get a little more perspective from. But all of these exercises truly helped. We did ground level research, just talking to retail store owners, right? What's selling, what's not selling, what's that point of sale experience like for a consumer? What are they asking? What's the conversation like with the retailer? And everything together, I can't pinpoint one thing, but those first 3-4 months was a lot of reading, a lot of learning, a lot of conversations. We even spoke to founders, like we spoke to alcohol brand founders who were in similar boat like us, maybe 3 or 4 years before we started. Their challenges, their journeys, learning from their mistakes, learning from what they did well. So all of that as a combination was I would say that's what our first 3 months looked like.
Yeah. Also, we of course did have a lot of trial and error, but having done the research helped us speeden it up a little bit, and also that we could learn from others' mistakes. So it helped us avoid a lot of mistakes we would have otherwise made.
Correct.
And Nidhi, as a woman in a male-dominated field, it would have been, I mean, you have your set of challenges and then there's this new set of challenges that we do not even know about. So how was that experience for you?
So, as a woman, of course, the field is completely dominated by men. However, and the biggest challenge is to be taken seriously in an industry where the vendors are men, where the manufacturers, everybody. So, of course, it was a challenge, but the good part is that you have to be assertive. I also feel like women in this industry bring more creativity, bring more fresh perspective, brand understanding, consumer insights. And also, if you see, 40% of the women in India are alcohol drinkers. So, I mean, understanding it from a woman's perspective was always easier.
Yeah, the representation
And it brings
matters.
new ideas, new thought processes, and new perspective to the industry.
So now going back, I hear you both talk a lot about like market surveys and data and how you made the choice
Yep.
of gin over vodka. Can you walk me like what one survey looks like, what the distribution of the survey was like, and then how you ended up eventually choosing gin?
Sure. So, I mean, it was a combination of different exercises that led us to gin, right? I will tell you about the survey, and then I'll also tell you about why we chose gin, right? So the survey, in its very essence, was a combination of quantitative and qualitative. So in the quantitative kind of questions, we wanted to learn about how often are you drinking, right? How often are you choosing white spirits over brown spirits? We wanted to get to the crux of, there is a perception white spirit is healthier for the body. So we wanted to like see for ourselves how strong that perception is in consumers, right? So we tried to understand that. Then we asked about specifically about gin itself, right? Like, how inclined would you be to choose like a colored gin over a clear gin? How inclined would you be to choose a flavored gin, right? Just to try to get to the crux of it, and then anecdotal data as to what contributes to premiumness, right? When you asked me about price segmentation, right? So what contributes to premiumness? How do you decide how much are you willing to pay for a particular product, right? So those kind of questions were more qualitative, where we wanted to get a lot more words out of people, thought processes. When you ask me how we chose gin, so this contributed, like the surveys contributed a little bit to it. At the same time, I would say that for young new entrepreneurs like Nidhi and myself, there have been pioneers in the industry who've already laid great groundwork to come in and express ourselves, right? And gin as a product, as a spirit, is a category where you can truly express yourself, both in terms of botanicals. When you ask me about vodka, right? So vodka is essentially a neutral spirit. It does not necessarily have a flavor or a taste of its own. You can have flavored vodkas, but whereas when you look at gin is like a blank canvas. So it gave us an opportunity to express ourselves. So when we talk about Nisaki is a little more floral and citrus elements, along with juniper, but juniper is a little more balanced, right? So that's our take on a gin. So that is what drove us towards gin. There is a great ecosystem for manufacturing that's of course been pioneered by people in the industry. Over the last 10 years, there's been a great kind of education done in the Indian consumers of what essentially gin is, like, what can you expect with gin, how do you consume it. And we brought another layer of our creativity, where we took gin to a more experiential space, where people can, rather than the drinking experience, have another sensory experience of like seeing something with a color and like experiencing like a color change. So I would say that it was a combination of multiple factors, but yes, the survey and the data definitely helped.
So now I have two questions here. Now, once you made this survey, how did you distribute it? Like, how did you get people to actually answer?
Sure.
Were they friends? Were they relatives? Were they these retailers? Were the emails sent out? Were there Instagram was used? One, that. And how do you know, like, for example, when somebody asks me how often do you drink, right? How often, like, how likely is the person going to give the truthful answer?
Right. So the survey was sent out to a lot of people. Like, we used our networks to kind of expand it. We did it with retailers, we did it with friends and family. We told them to send it to extended friends, their circle, and across demographics. Like, we asked our parents to send it out, we sent it out, and so we got a lot of data collected. And to your second question, that how truthful is the answer, we gave them options, to be very honest, that okay, is it like once a week, twice a week, or that way. So it was easier, and because it was like it was not it was anonymous, so it was easier for people to answer the truth rather than
Fair.
I would say
kind
that
of-
you take it a little bit with a grain of salt.
Mota moti.
Yeah.
Because I mean, see, at the end of the day, the survey will not make or break your brand or
Fair.
define the direction
Fair.
you choose. It just gives you a data set, and you need to know that that data set, the accuracy of the data set, needs to be taken with a grain of salt. Definitely gives you a perspective. So, yeah, truthfulness. I'll be very honest, right? That's something that we did not even consider. It gave us a perspective. We took that, which helped shape a little bit of our journey.
So I want to understand your surveys. How do you do you have a target audience, age group, kind of consumer in mind, and how did you reach those specific people from your circles? Did you identify them first? Was it after the survey? How was that like?
I would say that our target audience was defined a little bit with the survey as well. We did not want to, be like limiting ourselves a lot before we did the surveys. We wanted to expand it as much as we could across, starting from legal drinking age, which is 21 in some states, to as old a demographic we can get, just to narrow down, understand if there is variance in patterns, if there are in drinking patterns, if there is some inferences we can draw over there, that will help us target our product, right? Because once we help define our target market, at least the primary target market, right? That helps us in a lot of other things that we do, right? Packaging, design, marketing, right? Because then we know clearly who's our primary target market, right? So I would say that the surveys helped us. I would say if there was one big outcome out of the survey would be we got a little clarity of our target market.
And could you
Yeah.
define your target market like in age or number or income group or anything? Like do you have that?
So we do, of course. We target anyone of drinking age, and we target the younger generation who is more open to experimental spirits. Also, the older ladies who love drinking gin, they always want to try something new. They want to experiment with products, and of course, people have their own set of products, but a lot of them are willing to try a new product or experiment. And gin is like a versatile drink, so it's of course defined by that. I wouldn't expect a 60-year-old man to switch to gin from the regular whiskey, but otherwise, gin is for everybody who wants to drink something.
Okay.
Fair. And I had one more question regarding you mentioned a lot about the you said vodka is neutral, right? Like for somebody like me who has no idea about alcohol, if I had to study it,
Yeah.
can you create a small roadmap
To study how
about
do you,
the different kinds of
Okay.
alcohol and
Okay.
Sure. So I'll start from the beginning.
Yeah.
So to make alcohol, you need sugar content. So alcohol can be made from anything that has sugar or starch or any form of like a sugar substitute. So typically vodka in Russia was made from potatoes, which is starch again. In France, a lot of spirits are made from grapes, which is like a fruit-based liqueur, brandy, cognac. Whiskey is made from malt, which is a grain, malt or corn, or in India, a lot of wheat-based whiskey is there, right? So there are typically two families of vodka. One is grain-based. So your Indian vodkas, French vodkas, American vodkas will be made from grains, and Russian, Polish vodka will be made from potatoes. Gin needs a base, right? So typically gins are made from grain-based spirit that are neutral, and for a spirit to classify as gin, it needs to have juniper berries as the dominant, right? So when I'm trying to create a roadmap for you, I would say that there are 4 or 5 big families of spirits. One is whiskey, there's vodka, there's gin, then there are some smaller kind of category, of course there's rum and brandy, like I said, right? And then there are smaller families made out of different ingredients, like tequila is like agave plant. There is mahua and feni. Feni is made from cashew in India. Mahua is made from the flowers of the mahua tree. So that's kind of the classification overall. And you require a pot still, basically something to boil and evaporate the spirit and then condense it. So typically what's used is called a pot still to make spirit, right? So when you boil, ethyl alcohol and methyl alcohol have different kind of boiling temperatures. So what we can put in our body is ethyl alcohol, essentially ethanol, and methyl alcohol, methanol is something that you don't want in your spirit. So the boiling process, the more number of times you boil the spirit, the easier it is on your body, because most of the impurities, the sulfur, the methyl alcohol, they are all gone. So that's the first thing. Second is the alcohol that you collect post boiling distillation, that's a little higher in ABV. That's probably around 85 to 90%. Impossible to drink. So you blend it with water. You blend it with any other things that you are infusing it with, right? Like flavored vodkas or flavored spirits will have the flavor added post distillation. Once you're blending it with water to bottling strength, which is typically between 40 to 42% alcohol by volume, and so that's when you add your flavors. You let the spirit breathe a little bit, so the water and the other things, if there is any additives, and the spirit itself, they homogenize. So you let it breathe, you let it sit for 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, depending on different things. And there's a filtration process, and then there is a bottling process. Whiskey operates a little differently because whiskey essentially is white in color. It gets its color, gets its characteristics, the aroma, the taste from the barrels. The wood, the tannins from the wood is what gives whiskey its color. So the white neutral spirit is rested in the barrels, different types of barrels, and that's how whiskey becomes the golden brown color.
That's very cool. I had no idea.
So
about
I don't know
that.
whether I answered your question to give you a roadmap, but that's like a little
No, it's pretty
That's a
cool.
lot
2-minute
to
crash
start
course.
from.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
No, but so in this whole process, like, how did you come up with this hook of having a different color? Because you have so much technical knowledge, but to innovate in something like alcohol, I mean, you must have to go through multiple iterations. So how did that process come about?
You want me to take it?
Sure, go ahead.
No, I mean you can.
So
He
I'm pretty
loves
passionate.
talking about
I'm
it.
pretty passionate about this.
Lovely.
Operations, product development is something that I oversee personally. So you're absolutely right, right? So it's one thing to say, okay, we are going to make like this colored spirit, and it's going to have this color change. It's going to be experimental, experiential, all that great, right? Because of course it intrigues people, right? It generates curiosity. But at the same time, making it and getting it perfected was a long and arduous process for us. The recipe itself, we've undergone about 43 to 45 iterations before it went into the market. With the color itself, the indigo hue of Nisaki comes from butterfly pea flower. So we use real dried butterfly pea. We infuse the gin with it post distillation. We use a colorimeter, which is a device that tells the color of any food or liquid.
Okay.
And we have a certain reading. The reading came by, again, checking the color for different environments, right? So as we were building our product and iterating on the recipe, we've had samples kept inside a dark cupboard. We've kept samples exposed to direct sunlight. We've kept it in a room. We've kept it in a store-like environment where it will actually sell, just to understand the shelf stability of the color, right? And also the color change, right? So the color change primarily happens because of the pH balance, right? So we've tested it across with different mixers, different other things. And that's the reason why it took so long. That's the reason why we make sure that there is a colorimeter. That's the reading that's set based on all of our iterations. And every batch goes through the same reading. Has to be of the same reading, has to pass the eye test. So it's not an easy job because alcohol is volatile. We have the additional pressure of dealing with a pH sensitive kind of hero ingredient in our gin, which even means like if the air is humid, that will affect the color,
Yeah.
right? When we are distilling. If the tank in which we store our blend, if that's not cleaned properly, that's going to affect the color. If we use demineralized water to mix to bring it to bottling strength, if there is the pH balance of the demineralized water plant is affected, that means it will affect the color.
Yeah.
So
God, that's
it is something that we take very, very seriously, and something that we strive to you know maintain consistency across. So to answer your question simply, it was a long process for us to perfect the color, perfect the recipe, and to make sure that we maintain that consistency ongoing.
So I'm very intrigued by this little tag that's there, because it basically shows you how different mixers will change the color of this base gin.
Correct.
I want to understand, aren't like all the different tonics of different acidities, like do they all have the same acidity? I don't remember a lot from my chemistry from school, but isn't it really specific how the colors change based on product?
Okay, so because tonic is more citrus forward, and any citrus in Nisaki will make it blush pink, which is why even if you squeeze a lime into neat Nisaki, it will become pink. If because of soda being more neutral, if you put soda in Nisaki, it will become violet lilac, and with water, because of the minerals, it will become electric blue.
That's very interesting.
And one more thing, our brand tagline is love every hue. So when you said that different tonics have different acidity, different proportions of citrus, we encourage people to find your hue,
Yeah.
find your drink, whether it is one part gin, one part tonic, or whether it's another different kind of tonic, or it's a sonic, half soda, half tonic. You find your color based on the pH, like whether it's more acidic or basic. You'll get a unique hue, and you can associate color with taste. So every single time you know that this is my color, this is my drink.
Very cool. And what was the first time when you told somebody, like you finally finished your 45 iterations and you showed your product and told somebody, okay, like, try it out. What was their reaction like?
I would say that, we of course, we started with our near and dear ones.
Yeah.
Right? They were our guinea pigs. So our friends, our families, they were definitely guinea pigs. But I would say that when we told people that, oh, we are creating this color changing gin, right? Like you add soda or tonic and it's going to change color. They thought that we are like, taking a mickey out of them. They thought that we are just fooling around. So in the first time we, showed the spirit, the drink, the color change. I still remember, right? Like, I mean, it was with one of, our family's friend. We didn't want like someone too close because you develop a bias. So, and that person is like, okay, cool. Like, the first thing starts, has a sip. They're like, oh, this is nice. So it was very interesting because the biggest validation point came when we are having a regular conversation, right? About business, about like, where our next phase is, where we were like trying to figure out our go-to market strategy then because the product was ready. And that person's had like 5 or 6 drinks, like just while having that conversation. And we are like, Nidhi and I are looking at each other and we're just smiling because we know that, okay, and that person's not even like a big gin drinker. So, of course, after that, we got it tasted from like spirit experts, mixologists, distributors, manufacturers. And the feedback was pretty consistent. One was people were a little like, even 50, 60-year-olds were like a little kid. Okay, they are trying to see, like, does it actually change to
colors?
three different colors with water, with tonic? And that was, like job done for us because that was the goal when we set out that, yes, it's a marketing play for us. But at the same time, we wanted to like, bring that fun to gin drinking.
Correct.
Gin can be complex, right? There's all these botanicals and a lot of brands are trying to tell the story with botanicals. But as a consumer, right, like I may not truly know what those botanicals. For example, I don't know what's a snake turmeric, right? I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it tastes like. But without taking names, but there are brands that are trying to tell complicated botanical stories. It's a perspective. I'm not saying there's right or wrong, but from our point of view, putting ourselves in consumer shoes as well, we were pretty certain that we wanted to make discovery fun. We wanted to make it a little more personal. So yeah, when we got that tasted and we got that reaction, that was like great validation, like job well done for us.
Yeah.
It's a great marketing play to get someone to try your product because I mean you acquire taste with alcohol, right?
Yeah.
It takes you time to
Correct.
build that
Right.
taste. So I
Absolutely
think it's a great marketing play to at least bring in that curiosity
True.
to try it out. It's a drink. You're gonna
Yeah.
mix it. It's gonna be fun to do that. So
Yeah.
was that intentional? Was that just an accident that happened along the way?
No, so it was intentional to make also because gin is clear typically to make discovery easier. So if you go to a store and you see a colored product, it makes it easier, right? And it's beautiful packaging. We put in a lot of effort for the packaging and marketing and designing and product design and everything. So it is great. And the one myth we always try to burst, which is why the little neck tags on our bottles, is that it's an all natural gin. So there are no chemicals, no sugar, and no added color. And we're still, of course, it's an educative product. So we are trying to educate the audience that it's infused with the butterfly pea flower and there is no coloring added, nothing artificial in our product, which is what gives it our color and color change.
No, so just to add to what Nidhi was saying, right? I keep going back to data, right? A little bit of that qualitative data that came from talking to retailers across 2-3 different cities helped us understand that the colored gin segment is what the customers are asking and buying. A packaging that stands out on the shelves is, people buy with their eyes. So a lot of those kind of findings have gone into our product development, which is why we knew that colored products, like, there was pink, there was a couple other colored products in the gin segment already in India. And when we started research, we was like, how can we take this one step forward? That's how we stumbled upon the ingredient butterfly pea. Then we incorporated in our research that, okay, can we incorporate it in a product? Will it be stable? And that's how the color changing. So yes, it's a great marketing play. It was intentional, but it was kind of driven very, we were guided towards it.
Right.
So let's go into the manufacturing bit of it now.
Yeah.
I think this must be a very complicated process all the way from the smallest, and there must be a lot of things that must be going in with the
Sure.
stability in
Right.
mind.
Sure.
Right.
So why don't you walk us through the process first
Yeah.
and then tell me how you went about selecting the manufacturers. Do you all manufacture right now?
We contract manufacture.
You all
Yes.
contract manufacture.
Yes.
Okay, so first let's get into the process
Sure.
and then we'll
Sure.
go into the selection of that contract
Sure.
manufacturer.
Sure. So the process of Nisaki begins with 16 organic botanicals. We are very strict with how we choose our vendors. So we ordered botanicals from different vendors, tested for quality, tested whether it worked for our product, complemented our product, and that's when we finalized our botanicals. All our botanicals are sourced from India except our juniper berries, which come from Macedonia. Nisaki's production begins with a copper pot still. We use a triple distilled rice-based spirit, which makes the drinking smoother. We put the ENA with the botanicals in a copper pot still. It's a 200-liter copper pot still, which makes us small batch handcrafted gin. And after the distillate comes out, like he mentioned, the pure alcohol comes out. It is rested in a stainless steel blending tank. That's when we mix it with water to allow for the gin to rest and bring out all the flavors. Then we infuse it with the butterfly pea flower post distillation, which gives us the color, the indigo color, and the color changing property. And before bottling day, we go through a 5-micron filtration. So the finest of, because it's infused with the flower, there are threads that come through. So we want to eliminate all of those things to give people a proper product. So we do the 5-micron filtration, then we screen test each bottle. So in front of a screen, we put the bottle to see if there are impurities which come through, and we cap it with a copper cork, which is an ode to our copper pot stills.
Oh wow, I would not be able to tell you have no background in alcohol. The way you explained it, it's like you're an expert already. Oh my god.
So the 16 botanical vendors, what kind of testing does that go through once it comes into the factory?
Okay, so every raw material, once it's delivered from the vendors to the factory, one is the freshness test. So there is like I would say like a simple rudimentary eye test, right? Like, does it look fresh? Does it smell fresh? Then it goes through a small batch production in a 2 liter still, right? So our actual production is in batches of 200 liter, but we do a small batch just for testing the freshness and the quality of the botanicals in a 2 liter still to make sure that the product tastes, smells, and looks the same. After that, the raw materials are approved. As Nidhi was saying, right, as we were developing our recipe, the same botanicals, we've sourced it from many different vendors across India. Like, for example, our butterfly pea, which is the hero ingredient, it comes from Himachal. Juniper comes from Macedonia. Also, there's science behind it, right? Like, so you get juniper berries in India, right? But the juniper berries that you get in Macedonia, they're of a different species, right? So the one that you get in India are called fructose, the one in Macedonia are cornelius. And the cornelius are a little less intense, right? So the Indian juniper berries, I'm not saying better or worse, right? It's just more intense. So the juniper flavor or the oil content is a little higher. When we were iterating, developing our recipe, we were pretty certain that we want to have a balanced juniper note, not a dominant juniper note. Again, just because of the direction we were choosing. So that's why our juniper berries come from Macedonia. And yeah, like even smaller vendors, right? Like we have local vendors in Goa. Our citrus, like which is like oranges and lemons and all, they come from local vendors. Almonds. But even that selection was done carefully. We also have backup vendors in case there is any hindrances to the supply chain.
Okay, and then how did you go about selecting the manufacturing plant where all this raw material comes in?
Yeah.
What is that evaluation criteria like?
So I would say that there are 2 or 3 main evaluation criteria. One is we wanted to stay lean, less capital intensive when we began, because we were still proving the market. We were still trying to understand if what we are trying to set out to do, is there a product market fit? Is there a market for this? So one of the main equipments that you require for manufacturing gin is a distillation unit, which is in our case a 200 liter copper pot still, right? So that was the first kind of step. We could not go to a manufacturer that did not have their own still, because we didn't want to be capex heavy in the beginning and procure our own still.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the first layer. After that, the second layer was capacity, right? Say we find product market fit and we want to scale, right? What's that scalability like overall for the distillery, right? Say if we want to increase our production 10x in 6 months, is that possible, right? So that was the second step, right? The third step was licensing, right? As you may know that every state in India operates like its own country, especially for alcohol. So procuring those licenses in each state is a very challenging process. So having a manufacturer or a distillery that already has its licenses in as many states in India, that makes the job a little easier for us, right? As we try to get to expansion and we want to enter other markets. So that was a very big criteria in selecting our manufacturer as well. And then the last was quality, cleanliness, upkeep, staff, right? So a lot of intangibles. But the first 3-4 things that I mentioned were something that was very clearly defined for us. And then of course there's intangibles, right? Like we personally believe that to run any successful business, the people are the most important, and your contract manufacturer, your distillery is one of your most important partners. So having that rapport, having that understanding, being on the same page with the manufacturer is very important. So even though it may not be like a checklist, but getting that understanding, that alignment with the person was, I'm sure, a very big factor, which unintentionally, it wasn't a checkpoint for us, but that would have leaned us towards our current manufacturing unit.
And here I wanted to ask you a question. Like, a lot of manufacturers you go to, new brands get pressed from the MOQs.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of guys don't really understand how MOQs are derived.
Yeah.
So if the MOQ is, let's say, 10,000 units, I'm just giving you a random
Correct.
number. The manufacturer, when you come to him, will tell you 50,000.
Correct.
So how did you alter around that process?
I would say that MOQs is a norm in alcohol manufacturing as well. It is, I would say that every contract manufacturer tiptoes a little differently around it. One of the reasons why we also uh, loved our current manufacturer and continue a very very strong healthy relationship from the very beginning was this person was a lot more driven to help homegrown brands to help create an ecosystem. So the MOQs were in place, but they were a lot more palatable. And there were also concessions, right? Like, first 6 months, uh, as we are finding product market fit, the MOQs were a little more relaxed. Post 6 months, a different SLA was imposed with regards to the MOQ, right? At the same time, we came from a little informed point of view. We did our, research. We spoke to many different manufacturers, just understanding and founders, right? That really helped. Talking to other founders who are working in this similar contract manufacturing agreement, understanding what the MOQs typically look like, right? Because, like you rightly asked me, sometimes manufacturers inflate the MOQ. But having that informed point of view, just talking to founders, one conversation that really helped us. At the same time, it's like any negotiation with contract manufacturing is push and pull. So you give some, you win some. So if there are MOQs imposed and we negotiate on the bottling fees, right? So it's a fine line, and I would say that we are lucky in that aspect that our manufacturer was pretty understanding in terms of helping young entrepreneurs in the space. To be very honest, MOQ was never a challenge for us.
And like the payment terms, do they give any credit
Payment terms in terms
to
of
the manufacturer from your side?
Okay. Yeah, so I would say that there is credit, which is on lines with the credit that we give in the market. So the credit period is somewhat similar. Of course, again, that understanding and that security for a manufacturer comes with time once the product is proven. So I would say the first 3 batches, there was no credit. We were paying upfront, including the VAT. VAT is something that you collect from the customer, but we were covering the VAT security, which was, you can say, like the 20% of the MRP, the final selling price of a product, was something that we had deposited as a security, because the manufacturer has to pay that within 30 months of the product going in the market. So it's a risk. If the product doesn't sell, the money doesn't come in, the manufacturer will be liable because it's their name on the bottle as well. So so the first 3 months, 4 months, we were covering that. As the product is proven, as there is a regular cash flow coming in the company, you can negotiate better terms with the manufacturer in terms of credit and no credit. But I would say that for most young brands, first-time entrepreneurs creating new products, it's a little challenging getting credit from the manufacturing side.
And is your product linked to their license? Like you said, they have state licenses, right? I'm assuming, say, like manufacturer X has a license in Karnataka, he has a license in Maharashtra.
Yes.
When you launch, say, Nisaki has a link to that specific license. So can you switch contract manufacturers easily? Or not?
Sure. So I'll just pick up the bottle.
Huh.
I'll show you. So if you look at the back label of Nisaki, you will see that there is always blended and bottled, and that's the manufacturer's name, right?
Okay.
And then there is created and marketed by Project Peacock, that's our company. So yes, you are right, the manufacturer's license is attached to the product. And again, why we did that was to keep it lean. It's not to say that we cannot get our own distillery license or manufacturing license. It comes with fixed costs, and at the point where we launched or where we are today, that fixed cost was not justified. So when you ask, is it easy to change contract manufacturers? I would say the challenges come more from, setting quality SLAs, production SLAs, more so from the licensing bit. Yes, you can change contract manufacturers, and you'll have to register in Goa excise that you are bottling at this manufacturer, which also means that every state that you're already registered in, you have to reapply your label. So it is painful. It is going to take a few months, which means that you will suffer some losses as well due to no sales. But I would say that, to be very honest, change is challenging. So a contract manufacturer changing, I think that a bigger challenge will come from the point of view of production SLAs and quality. But yes, licensing is a big part. So it's absolutely true that if you change, then you have to change the license in every state as well.
Okay.
Okay, so you mentioned that you have 16 botanical flowers in your drink, right? So you have a contract manufacturer. How do you make sure that this IP or your formulation does not get revealed to him?
So just to correct you there, 16 total botanicals, out of which a few are flowers like lavender, rose, butterfly pea, which is a flower, which is the hero ingredient. It's a great question, by the way. So that's something that we were very apprehensive about, right? Like you asked me, how did you choose a manufacturer? I think that somewhere deep down in the back of your mind, that's there, that is this manufacturer someone who would try to cut you out and so I would say that we personally see, everybody will have a different answer to that, right? Because every formulation is unique. We take a lot of care to protect our recipes and our process. Although we are contract manufacturing, the entire distillation process, where the botanicals are going in what quantities, in what proportion, at what stage, is managed by our team. And there is an NDA in place as well. So the manufacturer at any given point, of course, they are closely associated with us. It's in the same facility. If someone really wants to go out of their way and figure it out, they can figure it out from the bottle as well, right? It's not very, very difficult. You get a talented person or talented distiller, they can definitely break it down and get close to the recipe. But from our standpoint, I would say that the manufacturing, the blending is controlled by Project Peacock, not by the manufacturer. In some cases, there are brands that let the manufacturer do it. They give the playbook to the manufacturer, and the manufacturer just produces it. In our case, we've taken that additional step. That means that there's additional overhead as well of bringing it in-house, right? Like all vendor selection, vendor contacts. We try to protect them as much as possible. So I would say that it's a challenge, right, in the industry, especially when you're contract manufacturing and you don't own the manufacturing unit yourself. There is always the risk, and I come back to my previous answer to you, or previous point is it's about people, right? A contract manufacturer is probably the single most critical element to any manufacturing business that is outsourcing manufacturing. So the person or the people become that much more critical and important. So there's a lot of trust in play as well, right? And there is no easy way to protect yourself, right? IP laws or something, one ingredient proportion up and down is a new recipe, right? So I would say that comes down to how much you can control and protect, but it's a little bit of leap of faith. You got to trust the person you've trusted your brand with for manufacturing, and when it comes to it, then you got to cross the bridge when you get there, because it's challenging. So we try not to think too much about it, like someone stealing the recipe or the idea. It's like we trust our brand. We feel like no one can do color changing or this particular recipe as good as us. Even if they try to replicate it, it won't be with the same passion, the same background, the same research, the same kind of meticulousness, or how properly we do it. And that's what we got to have faith in and trust in, that it's a brand that cannot easily be shaken, and that's what we strive to build every day.
Yeah.
Okay, now coming to my favorite part of today, I want to know everything about licensing and how you navigated that maze, how you got started, what to take care of. So let's start small. What was the process like? Where did you guys start? And what were the biggest challenges you guys faced?
Should I?
Yeah, of course.
So, just to give a little background, um, so we started in Goa. Our manufacturing is in Goa. So that means that the first state we registered to sell was Goa for us. That doesn't mean that you can obviously manufacture in Goa and choose another different state to sell it just for export. I would say that Goa is a great market both from a product market fit, sales, as well as manufacturing, right? There's a great ecosystem for young entrepreneurs. Like I said, like, you want to be capex light. There are manufacturers there willing to offer the contract manufacturing services at a pretty reasonable MOQ with the right equipment. Goa has people traveling from all across India. People are there mostly vacationing or with an open-mindedness. So they are more inclined to try a new product as well. They are more inclined to try a homegrown. Excise and VAT, like the duties, taxes on alcohol, are relatively lower in Goa. So the products become a lot more affordable as well. When it comes to licensing, there are three things that go into licensing for us. The first thing is contract manufacturing agreement with the manufacturer. So Goa Excise requires you to register that as a tie-up agreement, that this distillery has tied up with this company and is manufacturing this product for them. So that's the first step, right? And there are certain documentations like company incorporation, bottling contract, like your contract with the manufacturer, what are the terms. There is a police background check required for both parties. Then we are a private limited company, so basically our MOA and AOA, then the board of directors, kind of which directors are there. So that's the first step. So it takes anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to get that in place. Post that, you can apply your label and register it for sale in Goa, or register it for export to other states in India, or register it for export to outside India, or you can do all three, right? So in our case, we did all three. So we registered it for sale in Goa, we registered it for sale in other states in India, for export in India, domestic export, and also international export. And this process from the label registration to approval in Goa, again, it takes another 2 to 3 weeks. So I would say that the total process was like about 6 weeks. I would say that it sounds long, but Goa is still relatively easier to operate in terms of licensing. We as a company chose to have the tie-up as a first step, but that's not a requirement. But that also means that the name of the company that owns the brand will not come on the label if you don't have a tie-up in place.
Okay.
Right? So it will only be operated under the name and license of the manufacturer. Right? Of course, you have an agreement with the manufacturer that you own the brand and this is how the revenue is split, and marketing is in your control, the trademarks are in your control, but on the physical product itself, there will not be any mention of the company that is created the product or owns the product.
Okay. I don't want to digress quickly and come
Sure.
back to licensing after, but within your whole supply chain, who's making the best margins? Like, there's a manufacturer, there's you, there's a retailer. Who do you think is taking away most of the margin?
I would say it varies state to state, right? In a state like Goa, I would say that it will be the distributor has like really solid margins, right?
Okay.
Because Goa is also a bulk sale kind of a market. A lot of people want to procure large quantities of alcohol, which is legally permissible by the government. So people sell and procure in bulk. So the transportation logistics become a little more easier and more reasonable. In a state like Maharashtra, if you look at a city like Bombay, distributor has healthy margins, but at the same time, the logistics is more challenging because the retailers in Bombay don't stock in bulk, especially in a premium segment. That's where we operate in. So then it means say if there is one trip, like one transport trip in Goa could be like as many as 6 to 10 in Bombay, because people don't like stocking. So we, like as a company, have pretty healthy margins, which is why we are operating in the premium segment, because it gives us the ability to have healthy margins. But at the same time, it's a little bit of education required. So we have to spend quite a lot of our profit margins on marketing, both digital marketing and physical on-ground marketing in the form of event, which requires a lot of FOC, free of cost stock, event costs, and there's a lot of cash flow in play, like working capital. So the margins go over there. But yeah, like every state, it varies from state to state. See, the manufacturer makes fixed revenue, right? Of course, the product does well, the manufacturer does well. At the same time, the distributor controls a pretty sizable margin, and they have like logistics, supply chain is their cost. So I would say if the product is doing well, there is decent margins, decent money in it for everyone. But state to state, it varies.
Interesting.
And what are all the manufacturing hubs in India? Like Goa is one. What more?
Okay, so I would say that Goa is definitely a big manufacturing hub. Maharashtra has a lot of manufacturing. In the north, if you look at it, Uttar Pradesh has a lot of big manufacturing. There is large Indian manufacturing companies over there. Pernod Ricard is making one of the largest whiskey manufacturing unit in all of India, maybe in all of Asia, near Nagpur. So that's Maharashtra again. And then there is localized manufacturing, right? So there is manufacturing in Karnataka for local players. Then there is manufacturing in Tamil Nadu. There's manufacturing in Kerala. So I would say there is alcohol manufacturing pretty much everywhere. But when you talk about contract manufacturing, when you talk about entrepreneurs or like new age Indian brands coming in, I would say that it's hard to look beyond Goa.
Okay.
Yeah, so now since alcohol is state governed and you have to like navigate so many different excises and duties in every single state, how do you go about thinking where do you want to start? Like we spoke about you being in Maharashtra, Karnataka, as well as Goa, right?
True.
And also pricing, because I mean I am going to be in different places, I'm going to have a number in mind. It's going to become challenging because in my understanding I think Bangalore has cheaper alcohol than Bombay does. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd like to know how you navigated that whole maze.
That's a great question. It's just the nature of the industry, right? It's so licensing does come into picture. Alcohol is state governed, and even within that there are different models. So Goa and Maharashtra work in a distribution model. So we as a company sell to the distributor. But when we look at Karnataka or we look at Haryana, we sell to the government.
Okay.
Right? So there is no distributor. So for example, Karnataka has Karnataka State Beverage Corporation Limited, KSBCL. So we sell the product to KSBCL and the retailers buy it from KSBCL.
Okay.
Right? So every state has like unique nuances, licensing challenges, timelines. It's something that I don't have a great answer for you. I would say that the only way to navigate that is to be like nimble, to be flexible. How we choose to enter what market is based on drinking patterns, spending capacity, disposable income. We are definitely priced different in different states, and that's not a factor of us increasing the price, that's a factor of state duties. We are priced at 1849 in Goa in retail, and with our selling price being the same, by ours I mean like there is an ex factory price that we sell the product at, right? But because of the duties of Maharashtra, we are priced at 3300 in Maharashtra, and we are priced at 3560 in Karnataka.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. It becomes a challenge because of the factor of state excise and VAT. The pricing becomes so dynamic, and it is challenging to try and create that market in states, because the pricing, we don't want to price it out of reach. So every state we try to like take a hit as well. Say for example, if we want to bring the pricing in control, like recently Maharashtra increased the excise duty on Indian manufactured foreign liquor. That's the category we play in, which meant that our final MRP was going to increase. But we as a company made a strategic decision that we will, reduce a little bit of our gross margin to keep the MRP the same, right? So these are strategic decisions that we have to take. We have to pivot. We have to be nimble. A lot of other factors come into play, like affordability and what's the right pricing. For example, a market like Bangalore, right? People have really, really large disposable incomes. They spend on quality spirits. So a price of 3560 is still accessible in Bangalore. Of course, it doesn't compare to what we are priced at a lower duty or lower taxed state like Goa. But it's just the nature of the industry of operating in an alcohol industry in India. And I would say that we stay nimble, we try to pivot, we try to stay ahead of the curve, try to get as much data and understanding to strategically be ahead. But again, there is no one right answer to this. It's something that you try to learn and navigate every day.
So now I want to ask you more about those two models you mentioned, right? So you said distribution model and the selling directly to government.
Sure.
Right. So I understand, like in the FMCG and like the pharma offline distribution space.
Correct.
Right. You have a distributor you sell to, which is at a rate at PTS, which is
Correct.
price to distributor.
Correct.
So for you as a company, is that the same all across, or you also vary state to state?
It varies state to state.
Okay. And when you say distribution model in Goa and Maharashtra, right? When you sell to the retailer, does the retailer go ahead and generate the demand ahead at the retailers? Does the distributor generate the demand at the retailers, or you have somehow a mechanism that the retailer understands about your brand and then orders from the distributor?
Sure. So yes, there are different models to the distributor. We have a similar costing, which is priced to the distributor. Based on the markets, right? Like the volume, the margins, the overall price, the distributor margins also vary state to state. The second question that you asked about generating demand, I would say that it's a combined process, right? The distributor, again, typically may have anywhere from 20 to 30 brands to upwards of 300 brands, right? So we work hand in hand with the distributor teams to cover most of the market, generate demand, set certain process, create like the right narrative for our brand on how to pitch the brand to the retailers. But a lot of the work is done by our in-house sales team. For every market, for every state, we have in-house sales team at Project Peacock, who I would say the key accounts for sure, and then also guiding the distributor team, working hand in hand with them to generate demand and create awareness.
So, but is there like a sales officer who goes to the retailer, explains that this is the brand, you should keep it, and then he gets the order, submits it to the distributor, and then he just dispatches it? So that's how it works?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
Great. And when you sell directly to the government, how does that demand from the retailer to a distributor or government, how does that get generated?
So there's a similar to a distributor model.
Uh-huh.
There's something called promoter, and that's a choice you can make, right? Either you need a promoter or don't need a promoter. When you sell to the government, the promoter operates as the distributor essentially. Like they have their sales team. Again, you have your sales officer who will generate that demand, and you try to like increase your reach by leveraging the promoter sales team as well. But that's not a necessity, right? Like that's not a given. It's not a requirement. If you have your own big enough sales team in that particular market, you may not need to have a promoter appointed at all. You sell direct to the government and take it from there. But as a homegrown brand, like as a niche product, growing company, the promoter models work for us. The margins are a little lower than a traditional distributor model because distributor is like storing the inventory, is doing the supply chain logistics with the transport. It's also like there is excise duties and collection and all of that comes into play. So the margins vary because the distributor is a lot more like a partner, whereas a promoter is more from the standpoint of like marketing and creating demand.
And now, how do you plan the routes of these sales officers? Like, say you enter the Goa market, right? How do you divide the Goa market? Is it headquarter based? How do you decide how many people you need to cover
Sure.
what area, and how do you keep them incentivized?
Um, Again, there are different models. So I would say that Goa is typically divided into three main areas. One's North Goa, one's South Goa, and then there is the central Panjim kind of area. So I would say that like we have a meeting weekly on Wednesday to define the routes, and it's a factor of multiple different things. We are data driven, so we'll research that which retailers are due to order. We'll definitely meet our key retailers. We choose an area and then we define strategy for that area, that if this is the route we are covering on this particular day, these are our key retailers, these are retailers that we want to go check on because the next order is due. These are retailers that have some sort of a grievance that we want to address, so we'll make sure that we go meet with them as well. So the route is defined every day. We try to cover most of the market in the span of a week, right? So every week we try to meet the retailer once, or every 2 weeks, it depends. Goa is a little larger, right? So traveling takes a little longer. Uh, and then a market like Bombay is divided into areas, right? There is Western, there is Central Suburbs, there is South Bombay, there is Central Bombay, which so again the route is defined based on that, and a similar kind of trend we follow, which is any visiting retailers that have an order due, grievance, key retailers. So I would say it's kind of a factor of that. And when you talk about incentives, right, there is like many different layers and forms of incentives, right? One incentive is called CSM, which is at the store level, where we incentivize the retail store representatives, people who are standing there and doing point sale to the customers. We incentivize them so they can push our product, and they are incentivized to like pitch our product to a customer who's probably buying in a similar segment. The second incentive is to our sales reps, which is in our case a ladder based, right? So there is a baseline, right? If you meet the baseline, you unlock a particular incentive, and after that there is a ladder. For every rung of the ladder, you unlock the next incentive, right? So the base incentive is pretty achievable, so they are motivated, and if you unlock like another 2 or 3 rungs, that incentive becomes really large. So it's a very very highly motivating goal for them to achieve and reach. At the same time, when we consider cost to the company, I would say that it's very very beneficial. Like it's more. I would say that the cost of the company is justified for the incentive then, and that also helps us create market share, get a presence in the market. So
Exactly.
Yeah. So can you sell to bars directly?
Yes, we can. So the process is pretty similar to how we do our retail sales. The sales rep takes the bottles, goes to the bars, asks them to try it out, maybe make a cocktail, shows them the color changing, explains them the product, and then if they like it, they typically place an order and they'll ask for one bottle to try out how it's selling with their consumers. How it sells, how much the people are asking for it, and another tactic we do is wherever we go, we ask for Nisaki.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
It is fulfilled by the distributor or the government
Yeah.
where there is depots, though. We can't sell directly as a company. We can go pitch the product, generate demand.
So
basically.
generate demand and then you give it
Then you
directly
give
to
it
the
to the
depot.
distributor.
True,
Yeah.
true. Distributor or the government.
So across all of the variables between the states and all of the excises and duties and the different types of distribution that you go through, first of all, how do you think about arriving at what your unit economics is like? And second of all, what is it?
Sure. So you asked me two questions over there.
Yes.
One is unit economics and the other is pricing strategy.
Yes.
Right. So when we think of pricing strategy, right, we factor in, like you rightly said, there are a lot of variables. We factor in the state levied duties, which includes your excise and value added tax. We have to factor in transportation costs, especially when it's transported out of Goa, which is where we manufacture. And we have to factor our cost of goods as well, right? So we are selling price, which there's a term that we use in the alcohol industry. It's called EDP, which is ex distillery price, which is essentially your ex factory. That's the number we look at, right? Of course, that number is arrived a little bit backwards as well, because we have a certain range in mind, which is we price index against products that we feel like we are similar priced, similar positioning, similar market segmentation. So we work backwards as well, and then we arrive at that ex distillery price, right? So the ex distillery price typically varies state to state, not by a lot, but it can vary state to state for us. And so I would say that it is challenging because we are taking a little bit of a judgment call that this is what we are pricing it against, and we believe that the customers will find it value for this product at that price, right? You can always pivot the price as well. It's just a process. It takes a little bit of time because you have to reapply or register the label again with a different price. So it's a judgment call based on some of these factors. The second thing with regards to unit economics, again, it varies state to state, but I'll give you like our overall unit economics. So I would say that our manufacturing cost is roughly 29%. So our gross margin is about 71%. And I'm doing the unit economics based on the ex distillery price because that's the number we control. The excise, VAT, the distributor margins, everything comes under that, right? Our trade discounts are roughly around 30%. So, and that's a very big form of marketing as well, right? Like, so the schemes, the trade discounts, the margins that we give, additional margins on top of built-in margins. So that's about 30%. Then our salaries are roughly 8%. So I think we are at what, 67? We have about 13% is our marketing budget. So that's 80, and remaining 8 or 9%, again it varies, are our fixed cost operational, which is office rent, travel budgets, bills, licensing fees, all of that. So our net on the unit economics level is about 11%. This is and then we do a couple more steps. So we are roughly operating at around 6 or 7% EBITDA.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Now we'll pivot to the looks and the feels of your product. All about the marketing, the packaging.
Yeah.
First of all, how did you come up with the name Nisaki?
So before we finalized on Nisaki, we went through about 600 names.
600 names!
Yes. So we had a branding agency we were working with, and we went through 600 names. And the 600th name they suggested was Nisaki. And the minute I saw it, I was like, this is it. This has to be our product name. I know it sounds Japanese, and it does have a Japanese overarching meaning, which means benevolence, compassion, and kindness. It's also a Greek word for little island, and there is a little island named Nisaki. but in effect, it is our names. So, Ni, Sa, and Ki is like of Nidhi and Sanchit. So, that's how our
Amazing.
brand name was derived.
Amazing. And when it comes to thinking about marketing, you can't, like you guys mentioned multiple times, you cannot directly market alcohol in India. So how do you go about it? You have to be very crafty and creative with it. How do you go about doing that?
So absolutely. So the only direct marketing we have is Instagram or on trade, like our sales reps going to retailers and to restaurants and talking about our product. So we use Instagram extensively. We are allowed to run ads in a certain legalized way, where like we're not allowed to show people consuming anything in the ad, but we are allowed to run ads saying we are available here. Come have a come buy a bottle. So we do put a store list out, and we say we are like if you need help with a store, we are available at a store near you. Come reach out to us. We can help you with a store. We can never directly sell it online. But we do rely a lot on Instagram, word of mouth, doing some events. We also try to do events with a lot of influencers and people who have a wider audience and a wider reach, so that we can kind of get to them. We can get to our audience via the influencers.
So can you speak more to the events? What do you do in it? What do you expect out of it? Like what is the ROI that you expect out of an event? And are there any seasons that you do this more at in the year?
Right. So we cannot directly expect an ROI from anything, from an event or an Instagram ad or any of those things, because there is no direct way to associate someone buying a bottle of Nisaki from a retail store. We'll never know how they came about it or how they discovered the product before they bought it. But what happens is, like, typically, so last year we had this, that we had UGC reel go up, and that kind of exploded our Goa market to the extent that we were sold out. And we knew it was the reel because people went to stores showing the reel, saying that, okay, this is what happened and we want this product. But and as for events, we tend to do it all year round, but it's more focused during October to like January, because that's more like end of the year. People are in the party mood, Diwali, festivals, Christmas, New Year's. So we try to do events on those, and otherwise like long weekends. We try to catch long weekends where we know people will be more willing to party. And specifically in Goa, long weekends are a big thing where people go to restaurants and tourists go to Goa. So that's what we target typically.
Very interesting. Now, when it comes to the packaging and the way it looks, a lot of times alcohol is a present, or it's given as a gift, or it's had recreationally. So looks are important, the way it looks. How did you go about thinking? Because of the color, obviously the packaging had to matter a lot more. It's a very visual product. So how do you think about that entire process?
So one thing we've always believed and reiterated to ourselves and to our team is that you drink with your eyes before you actually consume the product. So if the product looks appealing, it stands out in the market, then people are more likely to buy it. With that in mind, we had our bottles imported. If you look at our bottle, it's 800 grams of glass.
Let's show it.
So if you look at our bottle, it's like 800 grams of glass, and this bottom thing, it refracts light. So if you like put it against, if you put like light under it, it'll refract light and it looks very beautiful.
Oh, wow.
It's also very different looking. There is no other bottle in the market that looks like ours at the moment. And our label and our cork are like, we matched everything. We made it very aesthetically pleasing. We also consciously decided that we wanted to go a certain route with the packaging in terms of like going copper, which is an ode to our copper pot stills, and like maintaining the aesthetics of the bottle and the liquid, allowing more retail space for the liquid rather than real estate, sorry. Allowing more real estate to the liquid than the label, because we want the liquid to stand out.
Very interesting. Also, when it comes to having a visual product, and as you said, you had to kind of go like UGC as a route. How do you like show or sell something without a CTA? Now, in marketing, a call to action is extremely important, and obviously something direct is easier to associate with, right? So how do you, like, how much time do you spend in your day thinking about all of these hacks around other industries can go straight ahead, right? How do you think about the language that you use online?
So with online, of course, we have to be very careful. we have to ensure that we are informing the audience that you consume our alcohol, but consume it responsibly. So in terms of a CTA, we can never directly say that drink now or something. We always say buy now or reach out to us to get a store near you where you can purchase Nisaki. We always encourage people to reach out to us and get queries like, where do I buy it? How do I buy it? Can you help me with it? And we also encourage a lot of gifting. So every gifting season, like especially during Diwali, there are a lot of parties. People love gifting alcohol. So we are working on a plan for corporate gifting as well. However, we do have a very beautiful box that we use for gifting, and we try to use that to gift influencers to certain people so that it kind of helps us reach out to certain audiences and like our target audiences.
Yep. Now, when it comes to your market, now since Instagram is the only way you can market, that's the biggest for like a millennial or a Gen Z user, right? And just very interestingly, and we touched upon this very lightly before, a Gen Z user is moving to more non-alcoholic options. So I'm sure there's a big, huge market for you. But how do you think about that segment of consumers? Do you want to make something in that market, or do you kind of want to focus more on a higher or older target audience? How do you think about the age and the platform?
So it's interesting you ask me that. From my perspective, I would say that it's a little bit of a myth, right? I would agree to this, that the Gen Z are drinking less, but they are drinking better, right? And that's where we were pretty conscious that we want to segment it in the premium segment. When you talk about, lower ABV, or they are moving away from alcohol, I'll give you a data point, okay? So India is adding 21 million people of drinking age every year for the next 5 years, right? And that's a sizable market in itself, right? So yes, the younger consumers are choosing to drink different, but at the same time, we are playing in the space that excites them, which is experiential, right? People want to move away from the act of consuming to the act of experience, right? When you look at patterns now, people are drinking, or the younger generation, when I said they drink less, they are drinking more socially. They are drinking at certain specific celebrations, events, rather than like a pattern that was there, which was a little more like an every week or every weekend consumption, which is where my statement comes from: drinking less but drinking better. And yeah, like I truly believe it's a myth, because even if we look at data, so there was a data point, and don't quote me on this, but because I don't remember the source. There was an article I was reading recently that when you look at the second quarter sale, which just went, it was in the last 38 years the highest alcohol sale to that particular age bracket that you're talking about.
Wow. Okay.
Right? So that's all alcohol, right? So that's what I'm saying, that it may be lower ABV, it may be like more white spirits, but the whole narrative that Gen Z is choosing to not drink, I feel like it's a little bit of a myth. And every market, every country goes through these cycles where alcohol consumption, dips and then increases. We as, co-founders, owners of Nisaki, I think it's our job to put ourselves in the shoes of a target audience like Gen Z and stay ahead of the curve, like try to create products that will excite them. So yes, we are thinking about it. It is a very, very integral part of our TG group. And we are doing continuous R&D, trying to create newer and exciting products. It's not that we're just targeting the older generation. But at the same time, we also need to kind of understand that it's not entirely true that the Gen Zs are moving away, at least from our research, our understanding.
Also, to add to what Sanchit said, that they want to drink better. and we're offering a premium spirit. So it's not like any spirit that'll give you a throat burn. Of course, anything of too much of anything will give you a throat burn, but we're trying to constantly better the quality and offer a spirit that people actually feel good to consume. It's not just about drinking it anymore.
Yeah, so now one last question that we have for y'all is that y'all are also husband, wife, and co-founders. So how does that dynamic work? What are the advantages? What are the disadvantages?
So I think the biggest challenge for us is separating work and personal life. However, of course the advantage is that we keep pushing each other to do better. Like we are each other's biggest cheerleaders and the biggest critic. It's also good that because I'm trying to prove myself in a male-dominated industry, I always try my luck, and then when I'm kind of disheartened, Sanchit's like, no, you have to go for it and you have to push harder. Maybe you're not pushing hard enough, and that motivates me to go out there and be like, no, if he can do it, why can't I do it? So that is one thing, and I think the only con is that there is no off switch for us. We are constantly at it. Like even if at 12 in the night we'll get an email or a message, we will check it and reply to it saying that, okay, this is what we have to do.
So I'll kind of echo what Nidhi said, right? Like, so it's amazing because we as partners are living the same journey. So there's a lot more understanding about, sometimes you're having a difficult day at work, right? One of us is. There's a lot more understanding because we are going through that journey together, right? Rather than communicating that, right? So it helps. It helps with growth. We are going through a growth journey together. At the same time, it's sometimes the lines get blurred. I don't know whether that's a good thing or bad thing, but the lines get blurred at work, at home, right? Like, how do you distinguish? We make a conscious choice. We try every day to try to separate, we don't try to bring our work home. But yeah, it's difficult. It's fun. It's actually a lot of fun because and personally, I believe that it makes us a lot more stronger as partners, as co-founders. So yeah, it's fun building a company with your partner.
Yeah, and one last point is that I know that we have each other's back. So on a day that I am not fully on my 100%, I know he has my back to cover up and like if I'm an 80 or I'm like a 50%, he will be the other 50 for me, and vice versa. If we know that, then it's always better to do that, because sometimes it can be like something stressing you out and you just don't know how to get ahead of it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's very nice. Sanchit and Nidhi, what's next for you guys and what's next for Nisaki?
Next for us is to grow Nisaki further. We want to grow a lot more in the Nisaki space, wherein we've launched Nisaki Expressions. We've launched our first variant called the Passion Fruit, which is a flavored variant of the same thing. So it's just flavors in the same gin. Which is for people who want to try something different, like the passion fruit. Passion fruit is a unique fruit, and we're also working on research and R&D on other spirits.
Yeah, so I would say for Nisaki, like we were talking earlier, right? Like we are trying to understand our consumers more. So we're trying to innovate within the Nisaki family, more experiential gin, unique flavors, like Nidhi mentioned. But at the same time, we are also doing R&D. We have our in-house R&D team and lab in Goa, and we are doing continuous research on other spirit categories as well. One thing is very clear, that we want to try and stay true to our ethos, which is provide something experiential. It doesn't have to be as unique as color changing, but something that's a refreshing take on existing spirit categories. So we are researching agave spirits, we are researching vodka, rum, whiskey is a little later in the pipeline. But yeah, that's hopefully more new exciting products, spreading more smiles, adding to more celebrations and parties. Hopefully that's next for us.
So, alcohol is known to have surrogate marketing as an option of marketing.
Right.
What has been the recent scenario about that?
So, surrogate marketing is something we can use very extensively to market our product. So, in light of that, we did a recent collaboration with Beardo. That's the men's grooming company.
Amazing.
And we've launched a perfume called Beardo X Nisaki GNT, which is essentially capturing the fragrance of Nisaki in a perfume.
Wow. So how long did that process take? That would be tricky to do, right?
So I would say that the overall process took somewhere between 6 to 9 months to develop the fragrance, as well as the legal challenges and guidelines that come along with it. Very interesting you asked about surrogate, because it's a great form for alcohol companies to market, but again, the Indian government and the ASCI guidelines, they have certain milestones for surrogate products as well, like revenue, lifetime, how long has it been in market, because there were certain instances of companies using that without having a real product. So for startups, like companies like us, brand collaborations become like a very, very powerful tool, both for surrogate marketing, second for unlocking an audience or a target group that necessarily we weren't directly targeting. Like
Correct.
if you look at Beardo, it's more a men's grooming company, and that's probably a target group that now we can reach with our marketing, where probably before this collaboration we were not directly targeting them. So very, very powerful tool. Brand collaborations is for startups a great way to get into surrogate
Correct.
without having to spend that money and create like a full-fledged product.
Well, Sanchit and Nidhi, thank you so much for your time. We have learned a lot today, and it was a very interesting conversation. I did not realize when the time went by. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. For someone who's never had a sip of alcohol, this was an educative session. Thank you so much.
Likewise,
I think
it
that
was a pleasure.
should motivate me to drink now.
Oh my God.
It
Well,
was
thank
our
you so
pleasure.
much.
Thank you so much
so
for having
much
us.
for having us. It was great
And,
chatting with you all.
Good luck on many more such conversations for you all.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.